Duke Nukem 64 is a 1997 version of Duke Nukem 3D, a game which was already 2 years old at the point of the N64 version being released. Developed by Eurocom and published by GT Interactive, Duke Nukem 64 will either be adored or loathed by fans of the original. For those who've been living under a rock for the past couple of decades, Duke Nukem 3D was a smash hit on the PC, combining some excellent first-person shooting action with ultra-violence, comedy, and a lead character that is as ridiculous and over the top as much of what happens in the game. After the PC game did so well, it was only natural that the game would be ported to as many different platforms as possible, although to many, myself included, I was surprised to see this game being ported to the N64, as by that time the game was already showing its age. The port of the N64 version of the game fell to Eurocom, who are well known for doing excellent ports to Nintendo's new 64-bit console. Many N64 owners were becoming alarmed with the poor ports being released on the system, such as the lazy version of Quake, so the game arrived with very little fanfare or anticipation. Eurocom set about to make this the definitive version of Duke Nukem 3D, however they were having to work around Nintendo's well-known restrictions relating to religion, sex and alcohol within their games. Anyone who knows the PC version well will know that the game seemed to tick most boxes when it came to questionable content in-game, and so the fact that Duke Nukem 64 still retains much of its charm is a job well done by Eurocom. Before delving more into the changes in the game, let's get up to speed. Duke Nukem 64 is a first-person shooter with an insane arsenal of weapons and items which you'll need to brawl your way through an onslaught of alien scum. Like many classic shooters, the game relies heavily on action, although for me Duke Nukem 64 has a little too much key hunting. There are times when you'll encounter an epic battle against a horde of aliens, only for the game to suddenly come to a standstill as you'll fiddle with key codes, try to find hidden passages or key cards which you'll need to advance each level. There are however many different levels to play, over 30 in fact, and they're a combination of the original Duke Nukem 3D levels with some coming from the expansion Plutonium pack. Instead of playing the game in episodes like the original, the levels are all now played sequentially. In my opinion, this doesn't quite work as the episodic format of the original works better and gives you a definitive start and end point to each chapter which is missed in this port. For me it was also disappointing that some of the guns from the original have been replaced. The chain gun, Devastator and Freeze Ray have all been replaced with less inspired weaponry such as the submachine guns. There are however a nice range of weapons still, and picking the right gun for each environment is key to staying alive in the game. Now the controls will please fans of the Turok series, but there is also the option to go to a more traditional control method in the options menu, which for me worked a lot better. There are often problems when trying to activate switches or open doors to find the sweet spot, but you'll soon get used to this and it's just how the game plays. One of the biggest changes however comes in the form of the graphics. They do still look dated even when I played this back in the day, but now the flaws are even more noticeable. The pixelation I expected was thankfully reduced due to the bilinear filtering, but there are some incredibly low res textures which look frankly appalling. To compensate for this, the explosions and effects have been vastly improved, with some great use of particle and lighting effects which are far superior to the PC version. The same sprite-based enemies are here, however with the low quality animation that was found in the PC version. The enemies are interesting, but once you know how to tackle them the game does become a breeze. The game engine has also undergone a transformation, and it now runs a true 3D polygon engine, and the gameplay rarely suffers from slowdown at all. It's a shame that all enemies were not upgraded to polygons, however Eurocom did make one boss a polygon based model, so it would have been great to see how they would have tackled the rest of the enemies. One of the biggest letdowns is the fact that there is no in-game music. When you're blasting your way through enemies, it would have been nice to have had a rock-inspired track to really get you into the game, but sadly you're left with a dull and frankly uninteresting range of sound effects and grunts. Duke himself does occasionally throw out some great one-liners, but once you've heard his gritty lines more than once, they'll soon lose their appeal, and the quality of the effects is well below expectations. Perhaps the most important addition to this port was a 4-player deathmatch mode. With the console designed around multiplayer, it was no surprise that unfortunately anyone looking for a game to challenge the highs of GoldenEye will sadly be disappointed. The maps are limited and poorly designed, leaving death matches turning into snooze fests, and it won't keep you returning for days on end. There are also bots to play multiplayer with, but the AI of the opponents is laughable, and anyone with even remotely competent gaming skills will be able to take them out with ease. You can also play the entire campaign in co-op mode, which I would recommend for those who enjoy assisted gameplay. Duke Nukem 64 does so many things right and generally attempts to be more than a standard port that you would expect. The new additions such as the multiplayer, the game engine and effects are all welcomed, however the slightly altered levels and strong censorship does take away from the overall experience. There are far better first person shooter games on the N64 and I can name lots of them. Perhaps none however have the personality and character even of this censored version of Duke Nukem. If you're wanting to play Duke Nukem then I suggest sticking with the original, however with the N64 game being so cheap to pick up, then if this review has even slightly piqued your interest then I'd suggest snapping up a copy as you'll most likely enjoy it. So what do you make of Duke Nukem 64? Did you enjoy the revamped and tweaked port of the game, or do you think that Duke Nukem should have already been in the retirement home by the time this game came out? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time.